It was houses, about 20,000 of them, and nothing else but houses. And if there are no space about houses, they never thought in shops, cafes, chip shops. They didn't think about anything except building houses.
The scheme's about 25, coming up for 26 years old. It was built as a post-war housing project. It was totally to get housing requirements for derelict property from various areas, east end of Glasgow and centre of Glasgow. Families moved in very enthusiastically, as far as we can gather, my own parents included. The big attraction being that it was in the country, and also it had hot and cold running water and inside baths and various assets like that.
Well, I came for a room and kitchen in Brigton 17 years ago at Easterhouse. I was the oldest 8. And I went into, it was 3 rooms, a living room, toilet, kitchenette, bathroom. It was enormous to me. And it was just like walking into a big castle. That's what the first words we said.
But what you didn't have was basic necessities, like in the old areas of the city, you had the corner shop. You had no shops out. You didn't even have any pubs, you had nothing. Absolutely nothing. Everything you wanted had to be hauled from the centre of Glasgow, which is miles away. And it took them over 15 to 16 years to give us a shopping centre, to give us basics, like a community centre, for a start. You know, small, even schools. They built very small schools. They wouldn't hold a community of, what, 20-odd thousand people. It was, and some of the kids had to travel back to Glasgow every day, twice a day, to and from Glasgow. It was the only way they could get their education.
I don't think it was done deliberately. I don't think anybody deliberately just threw people into houses, but that's the way that it turned out, that folk were just shuttled in. I feel really bitter about it. There wasn't any great deal of thought or planning. Obviously, it's blatant reality that no planning or future thought about the social requirements for people and children and kids growing up.
We were the guinea pigs. The people that were put into Easterhouse, we were only guinea pigs. And the powers that be made these mistakes. And then when they built all the different new towns like Erskine, Cumbernauld, Glenrothes, they built these basic amenities. And they admitted it. Years and years on, they admitted it, that they had let the folk of Easterhouse down, and down very, very badly.
When I was younger, I never thought about the place that I stayed. I just stayed there. It didn't matter. But as I got older and reached the sort of teenage stage, Easterhouse was a name that was receiving a lot of bad press, bad publicity, things like that. And I was utterly and completely ashamed of living in such a place. And I despised my parents for making me being brought up like this. I always wondered why they didn't have posh houses like other people. When people asked me where I came from, I lied. I said Bailliston, which is a sort of posher adjoining estate. I also used it job interviews. I always felt that every time I said the word Easterhouse, that I was guaranteed not to get a job. We're now in Lochdocket Road. This is the Rogerfield area. Security guards have responsibility for looking after it. As you can see, there's mesh wires up between buildings to stop anybody getting in. Although what the hang anybody would want to steal, I don't know, because they're all gutted on the inside and they're merely shells anyway.
I'm an outsider that's moved from the Highlands down to Easterhouse. And I wouldn't for the world move out of Easterhouse, because the people, they say the heart's knocked out of them. Well, maybe it is, but the heart's still there as far as people are concerned. It doesn't matter if they've not got any money. All their wealth is in their mind, is in their goodness. Because there's a million good things in Easterhouse that people don't hear about. It's done every single day.
Well, I've lived in Easterhouse for 22 years. Sometimes I find it very depressing. You know, very depressing for the people, because I believe in the people in Easterhouse, and I think we deserve a lot better than what we get. And I think it's very disheartening bringing up a child in Easterhouse.
My mother, she raised 7 kids in Easterhouse, and that's credibility to me. That isn't easy. It's a real struggle. We were always clean, we were always fed, we always lived in a clean house. She survived on nothing. She's a very capable lady, and she's really, really strong, and she's really, really powerful. She would fight tooth and nail for her family. And she would face Goliath, she would face absolutely anybody in battle for her family, but only at her level. Where the stopping point comes for her is authority. Probably because of her, my attitude is totally different. It's not enough for me to know local politics. I'm not politically aligned to any particular party. I don't think. I didn't know what the word socialism meant, you know, till I was late teenager. But I want to know, and I want to learn. I want to know about these people that are controlling my life. I want to take that control off them, and I want to have it. And I want my children to have it. But the one thing that I can teach them that I think my parents didn't teach me was the history of my area and why I'm here. But I'm a member of the working class, my children are working class, and they've got to learn, through learning about their area, the structure of the area, their history of their area, why it was built, and learning more about, you know, where the buck actually stops. When you learn about where the buck actually stops, you can start changing it. And I've got to bring my children up to want to change the people that are in control of their lives. The health centre in Western Easterhouse Road, which is just on our left down here, is now being used for child health care. It's a clinic where mums with newborn babies or children who require JAGs or postnatal care and various things like that takes place in this building down here. It's quite ironic, really, because, you know, not 50 yards away from it there's a very plush social club, which is the Labour Club, and it bears no comparison whatsoever to the facilities that the children and the parents have to cope with. I'm very angry. Not even about what's happened to the scheme. What hasn't happened to the scheme is more the point. Nothing has happened to the scheme except it's gone vastly downhill. And people would direct that to the people and put responsibility on their shoulders for not upkeeping property and not staying to their gardens, etc., etc. And the list is endless of the responsibilities that's put on the tenant. But when people live in second-class housing in second-class conditions and in a oppressed state with lack of facilities, then I think it's quite true that the people are going to direct their energies into destruction of some sort because they've nowhere else, well, youths anyway, you know, if not more people. And people turn their anger on each other because they've never divulged the knowledge of where they should turn that anger and how that anger should be turned into a power to change the things that are lacking in their area and lacking in their community. And that's not the fault of the people, that's the fault of the people who have the knowledge, who aren't willing to divulge that knowledge and to put the power in the hands of the people who have to live in these diabolical second-class conditions.
Good afternoon, Voice Office. It's a community newspaper in the fullest sense of the word. We cover the general area of Greater Easterhouse, but we've in the last few months been pushing out a bit further into other areas of the East End of Glasgow.
Pretty good. It's good compared to...
It's a reasonably good quality community newspaper, and there's no great mystery to producing it. There's no kind of professional ways of doing things that are ordinary people can't do. We try to encourage people to come in and see how the paper's put together, to see really how easy it can be at times, and to help, if they're interested enough, to build up any kind of confidence they might need to actually write something themselves, come forward, contribute, become involved, not just in the Voice, but on other issues.
When did you go on strike?
Yeah, we went on strike on the 25th of July.
How long has been strike for?
9 weeks.
The Voice, if you like, is hopefully an effective method letting the politicians know what the people in Easterhouse think, whereas the Daily Record and the establishment papers, if you like, are the effective methods that the politicians use to tell us how things are going to be. We can use the Voice to tell them how we want it. Hopefully we highlight the problems that people are having, that they really are powerless to change unless somebody gives them publicity on it, or there's some public attention drawn to it. The biggest one, like most places, is unemployment. The general level of poverty right through the whole scheme.
I left school when I was 16. I had umpteen jobs until I was 17. My dad says to me when I left school, you'll end up pushing a brush. Granted, I ended up pushing a brush. That was a job. I was getting paid, and that done me. After that, I've been married 6 years, and I've not had a job. I've got 2 kids. I've not had a job. I've been unemployed since, and I can't get a job anywhere. It doesn't matter where I try. I can't get nothing.
God gives a chance. Just because we've no O-levels, no A-levels or nothing, we can't do nothing. Gives a chance to prove ourselves, and then we'll do it. Yes,
I want those opportunities for everybody, jobs that you can talk to the youths in the area about giving them a snooker table and a dartboard, and that's just making unemployment bearable. That isn't changing anything. I want somewhere where some way of them being able to upkeep their own environment and their own society and earn money in doing that. Because it's their place. We need jobs. We can patronise them all we want, and we can give them youth centres till we're blue in the face. They need to build these youth centres for themselves. They need to build their own schools.
I think just now, with the present attacks by this government on young people, and especially young people who stay in places like Easterhouse, I think that the whole strategy that this government's using in terms of the op schemes, now the YTS scheme, it's going to be pretty obvious that if any young people, or the vast majority of young people in Easterhouse, are going to have any sort of employment under one of these schemes. And it's pretty obvious for the carousel factory strike that these schemes have got absolutely no accountability
Well, you're working a 40-hour week for £37 your take-home pay. You're under 18, it's £32. And the conditions are deplorable. This wee lassie's getting the tap of their fingers cut off because he doesn't want to get a guard put on any of the machines. And the place is just manky. It's the only way you can describe it. The MSC pulled on it. York scheme was out of there because of the number of accidents.
We went to strike on the 25th. Bum, 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 bum. We needed safety to help us live. We said no longer would we work in that size. And 2 days later got a P45. Bum, 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 bum. We went
Personal feelings are, every time I see them, I think they're still fighting, they're still there. I feel angry, the fact that it is dragging on, and the fact that the impotence, if you like, of the trade union movement to finish the strike. And they are impotent. They won't finish it. They won't win it for the young people.
The Labour Party and the Labour movement generally has let down the working class in this country, not just here, but all over the country. I mean, the case of the carousel workers, the youngsters down at Shettleston just now, is a classic case in point. The kids will eventually be beat. It's great to see them fighting, but they'll be beat because there's no great support for the mass of the trade union movement, who have always been telling them and their parents that unity is strength, the union's behind you's going to do it. The unions aren't there to do it anymore. They're away.
I think a lot of people in the Labour Party here in Easterhouse are the salt of the earth, and the Communist Party here in Easterhouse are the salt of the earth. They're working every day, they're struggling every day and trying to help people at a very basic level. I think it's at the national level that the problem lies, with the leadership of the Labour Party and the leadership of the Labour movement, in fact.
The people are virtually powerless. People en masse are a power, but they're only a power if they have the knowledge to move forward and if they're released with the channels to move forward. But as long as they are intimidated by authorities, intimidated by buildings, intimidated by people who use terribly long, educated, articulate words, then the fear is in them not to move forward. Got to be treated as people, and the people must be demand to be treated as people and go out and find out and ask questions. Don't accept what's happening to you. There's obviously a whole lot lacking in the people's lives in Easterhouse and areas like Easterhouse. But it's got to be up to the people who are suffering the problems, who are living in these day-to-day conditions, to make that change. It's their change. They are the people who must make it.
I'm a great believer in community development, and I think it's starting to happen slowly, but there's still a long way to go. And I think it's new ideas, new attitudes, new avenues that people have got to explore all the time and forget about a lot of the things that happened in the past.
The people are great people, and they're very, very capable people. They're intelligent people. They're obviously intelligent people. When someone can live in a place like Easterhouse and survive and still be living and breathing and still have a smile for their neighbour as they pass by their door, that takes struggle, that takes strength, that takes intelligence to be able to cope, and the pittance that most of them have to live on. That's very, very, very strong people.
The people of Easterhouse want the same for their kids as the people who sit on their backsides in the city chambers. Am I right?
Aye, you're right.
Of course I am.
They get hundreds of pounds for sitting doing nothing. They're supposed to be looking after us and our kids, and they're not doing it. It's as simple as that.
That's unfair for your kids.
That's the truth.
They're paid to represent.
They're paid to represent us, and they don't do it. Our kids are walking the streets, kicking tin cans, while theirs I've got great places to play. We're not asking a lot. We just want somewhere for the kids
don't we? Somewhere for the boys, so they don't have to glue sniff, they don't have to drink cheap wine in corners. Just what they want for their own kids, we want for ours. It's as simple as that.
The physical reaction that happened in England, Liverpool, parts of London, Bristol, etc., never happened here. People expected riots, I suppose, in Scotland. Certainly in Glasgow it has that type of image, very similar in some parts to Liverpool. And we had a gang of police up for Liverpool, for Northern Ireland, Belfast, etc., trying to figure out why there was no riots in Glasgow and no riots in Easterhouse. And they sat, they toured the area, spoke to quite a few people and probably got a number of reasons. Eventually sat here, and one in particular kept coming back to the fact that there was no blacks in the area, but didn't we think the fact that there was no riots, the fact that there was no blacks in the area, did that not contribute to the fact that there was no riots? The reason there was no riots in the area is because there is no private property up here. They could riot literally from one end of Easterhouse to another every day of the week, and it wouldn't be called a riot. Any other disturbance isn't even going to be noticed in Easterhouse. There is nowhere for people to attack in Easterhouse except each other.
In a later programme, Whose Town Is It Anyway examines the work of the Easterhouse Festival Society, a local response to the problems of Easterhouse.
And see endless things that need to be done. I'm sure equally we can think of people who are capable of doing them. The question is, how do you bring those two together?
In Birmingham and Glasgow, the series explores how council tenants are organising to get a better deal.
The association has really proved that they can get something done.
Because it's the old saying, united we stand, divided we fall. And we've proved it.
In Brent, we look at the changing nature of politics within the black community.
The tendency has been in the past to give money in the hope you can buy off problems. But history showed that doesn't happen.
Next week, Whose Town Is It Anyway goes to Sheffield.
It's only a couple of years since we had Toxteth. That can happen anywhere, and it will. It's got to happen. But people can't keep that anger pent up. It's got to come out.
If you would like to know more about the issues raised in this series, there is an illustrated booklet. Send £1.25 to Channel 4 Television, Whose Town, P.O. Box 4000, London W3 6XJ, or Glasgow G12 9JN, or Belfast BT2 7FE.